Hey, you guys, we are so excited that you're here. Everyone that's over on Facebook too. Tonight, we are talking about self-care. And I know that is something that all of us need to have an honest discussion about right now. How many of us are feeling a little burnt out? I think somebody shared a post earlier today and was like, I thought it was Monday and it's definitely Tuesday. I'm like, I don't know what day of the week. The only time I know what day of the week it is when I have an obligation. And then I have to remember. But other than that, I can't keep up with it.
True.
But we are so glad you're here. We've already got a handful of people over on Facebook. So I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Amber, and I am the owner and leader here of Bend Raleigh, but I'm also a business owner just like you guys. I own a photography studio called Amber Foster Smith Photography, and our studio is the Studio Holly Springs, and it's a co-working space for creatives. So what I wanted to do is tonight we have Christy Johnson and Kathleen Burton who are going to kind of lead and share all of their experiences on all things self-care. And then we have two other beautiful women who tonight are just going to be joining the conversation and sharing all of the things. So I'm really excited. So Kathleen, do you just want to introduce yourself real quick? Just
Sure.
say hey.
Sure. Obviously, I'm Kathleen. I live now in Holly Springs. And I always feel the need to say that, which now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, everyone here is in North Carolina. But for 5 years, we were active duty. So sometimes I always feel like I have to start with like, where are we located now? But we're here for good.
Where you're located now?
Right. Finally, we're planting some roots and I'm really excited about it. So we moved here last summer and I kind of started my own business at the same time that I started having kids. And so it was like a little bit chaotic. We moved to Miami 3-4 years ago. I think it was 3.5 years ago. And about a year in, I got pregnant with my daughter, and I am a licensed esthetician by trade, but it was very hard to transfer my license state to state. So I wasn't really working full time. I was basically like looking for the right thing, if you will. And just kind of trying to figure out what that was. So I actually I sell essential oils, and it kind of fell into my lap, if you will. And I started doing it the week that I had my daughter Blair, who is almost 3. She'll be 3 in June. Wow, honestly, that's crazy. I have a little bit of
life fly by, right?
She's gonna be 3. She's gonna be 3 years old.
Mira said to tell you thank you for your family service.
Oh, well, thanks for your support. I'm sorry, I missed that. What did she say?
Oh, it wasn't me. I don't know. Do we have echoes going on? Girl, you're good. Keep talking.
Right. So I stumbled into this business. Essential oils were like, we used them and ended up loving them. And then it just like turned into a business. And it was truly like the week I had my daughter, we did that at the same time. And my husband was on like a fireman schedule. So he was like 2 days on, 3 days off, 3 days on, 2 days off, whatever. So he would be gone for 3 days at a time. I would work my business like crazy. He would come back, we would hang out. It was great. So that first year, we went from like 0 to, we were one young family living on one military income, which was a little bit scary at the time. We didn't have friends or family around, and we did create great community there. But truly, what I found that first year, I think motherhood kind of like propelled me into realizing how important self-care is, because it's really easy to like do all the things and be exhausted and then go home and sleep for a day because you have nothing else to worry about except for yourself. So that first year for me was like, I probably worked harder than I ever had in my life, but it felt like there was purpose there. And what I learned is that the cool thing about doing a job kind of crazy all in was, for me, that was almost like prioritizing something that wasn't a wife or a mother or something else. Like it was something for myself that I felt like I could call my own, and then it would bring value to the other things in my life. So small business is something I'm really passionate about. And I think that if you love something, you should make a business out of it in some way, especially because in my opinion, you should do what you love every day so that you want to do it. Like you feel like it just, to me, my job doesn't feel like work ever. And I work with a team, I run a team of 1,300 women. And so I love people. I love community. So getting to work alongside women who truly are like my friends and my family is such a blessing to me. So like self-care has been such a journey. And when my small business was able to like take us out of active duty and bring us back to the greatest state in the United States of America, we just got so excited and we're so pumped and ready to like go even more all in. So I'm just so excited to talk about self-care, because I feel like sometimes we get into a mood where it's like self-care is a bubble bath and self-care is, it's like, no, it's okay to like do a lot of work and have self-care be something you're really driven about that's separate from a hot shower alone. Like those things are important, but also it's really important to do something you love that's separate from what connects you to others. As in like, I love being a mom, but also I wanted something for myself. So that's just kind of.
I love that you said self-care is not a bubble bath, because I don't think I could ever sit still long enough to take a bubble bath. I know some people like that is their jam and that's their favorite thing to do in the world. Really?
I could.
I would get bored. I would be like 5 minutes in. I'd be like, what am I supposed to do? Sit?
To be fair, I always stream Netflix while I'm in the bubble bath.
Yes. Okay. So if you can binge watch TV with the bubble bath, all right, I get that. Yes. I literally have been told, like, when I take a shower, it's still never quiet, because like I have 2 dogs that love to take showers. They're weird. And so they cry outside the door when I take a shower. And literally to shut them up, I will just let them in the shower with me. I'm like, fine, come in, let's go. They're like 2 little toddlers. I'm like, just come on in, guys.
And I have 2 little toddlers and I know what that clawing at the door is like.
But my kids are grown. They're not supposed to be doing that anymore. Yeah, 2 pit bull brothers. We love them though. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you're here. Christy Johnson, can you say hey to everybody? For those of you who don't know Christy, she has been around for a long time. She was actually the leader of the Vend Raleigh professional photographers when I first started. And I remember one of the what's that?
I said, it was a really long time ago, right when Carrie Heisey had started doing the community groups. Yeah.
I remember that. So I am so glad that you're here, because Christy, I have kind of fangirled you for a long time. So you know I love you. I'm so glad that you're here. But that's why I'm really excited, because I've kind of seen this new journey that you're on. And so you want to introduce yourself real quick and just tell people just a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm a wife and mom of 2. My girls are now 13 and 11. So it's like having toddlers again, kind of.
Hormonal toddlers.
We're moving out of that sweet spot where they can do a lot for themselves and like they're just happy and fun, and now we're not doing that anymore. So but I have owned a photography studio up here in Wake Forest, Be True Baby, where I focus on newborns and baby's first year. And I did not come into my self-care journey on purpose. I kind of was whacked over the head with it, because I was the head down, very focused entrepreneur, very workaholic, just go, go, go. And if I wasn't working, then I was with my kids. If I was with my kids, I was working. So there was never a time that I took time for myself and took time to take care of myself until it really started to affect my health. And then I have to prioritize self-care now. And now I'm starting this new venture, which this COVID-19 situation, having put a pause on the photography studio since I can't be open right now, has given me the opportunity to work on this new business as well, guiding women who are just like me, who love to work and love their jobs and love their kids and want to be all in wherever they are, but tend to forget and neglect themselves and their own self-care. So I don't want anybody to end up in the position that I was in. I want to help you before you get to burn out and before you start to have mental and physical effects from the constant work and not enough self-care, because I know what that's like, and it's not a fun place to be.
You know how they always say busy is not a badge of honor? I'm going to share a funny joke with, not funny joke, but I look at it back now as quite funny and entertaining that I was so oblivious. But when I first started out as a photographer, for those of you who don't know, photographers who work with families, we're super, super busy in the fall, like the beginning of the fall, because everybody wants their family pictures taken for the holidays and all these things. And so everybody that I thought was successful around me around the holidays was talking about how much they were just, oh, so overwhelmed and so booked up and so busy. And it was like, wow, I want to be like that one day. Like, I want to be so busy during the fall that I don't know what to do with myself. Like, that will be my badge of success. Like, I can finally say, like, hey, I've made it. If I can be one of those people that says I'm too busy to think, y'all, and then I let it happen.
Yeah.
It was not pretty. So yeah, thank you for saying that. Like,
Yeah.
burnout is,
Yeah. Well, I think that there's so much, we want to present this image of ourselves as successful. And what does success look like? Having a lot of work and being in demand. But what does that actually look like in your daily life? That's not sustainable and it's not healthy. And
no.
so we have to stop glorifying like this hustle culture and start taking care of ourselves, because as moms, if we go down, the whole ship goes down. You know, if we're not there holding it all together, nothing's happening.
Yeah,
Nothing.
and then
At
mom
home,
gets
at work,
angry,
nothing.
and mom gets angry, the whole house gets angry. It's so bad. Like, I have actually, I'm not a fan of the word hustle. Like, because hustle to me, which I think can be good, but I think the way that people have accepted the word hustle is that it's you work and work and work until you don't like, until you can't work anymore, until you literally are working as hard as you can and all you're doing is working.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that word.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Honestly,
So I'm so excited to talk to you.
my biggest fear with my new business is that it will make me busy and I will love that feeling again and I'll be chasing that high again and then start neglecting my own self-care. But I was telling Amber the other day, like, the best thing about being a self-care coach is I really need to lead by example. So I need to be a good self-care role model. And how will I do that? Take care of my darn self.
You have to. I love it. All right. Hey, Bethany, can you say hey to everybody and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit, one, about you, about your business, and then this couple months has hit you hard. So I'd love for you to kind of just, I would love for you to kind of share a little bit about that. And Bethany, one of the reasons why I thought you would be perfect is you, like, when all of this started happening, and then I met you later, I was scrolling your Instagram back and I remember seeing the picture of you the day that you had to close, and you were literally sitting there crouched down with your head against your door and you're like, this is it, we're closed. Yeah. And I, like, we had just met, I had just started talking to you and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to sob my eyes out.
It felt like I understood every brick and mortar owner by just looking at that photo. Like, it was
At
so,
that one photo.
gosh, if you don't follow Bethany, you need to go do it because it was so beautifully written. And I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, like this, I don't know. It made everything very real for me because, like, I don't have a brick and mortar. I have a small business, but I do it from home. And so the thought of like shutting my door, like, you worded it so beautifully.
You literally shut your door. Oh my gosh.
I literally did.
Say hey to everybody.
And locked
What
it.
your Instagram handle is so that they can find you there and see what we're talking about real quick, and then make sure that you come right back.
Yes.
But share a little bit about yourself with us.
So yes, I guess it was March 25th is when I closed my waxing studio. I rent a small room inside of Sola Salon, which is a big building full of people just like myself, whether it's hair, nails, skincare, whatever. So yeah, that was one of the most, I guess, challenging days of my life. And I'm glad that, like, I was able to capture that moment because it really did help a lot of people understand. And I posted it on a few of the esthetician pages and people were like, can I share it? And I'm like, yeah, because you don't want people to feel that pain, but to understand what the little guy is feeling during this time. So for me, Kathleen is one of my best friends. We met I don't know, like almost 9 months ago.
Yeah.
10 months ago, through our church. But yeah, so I've been an esthetician for about 12 years and I've been waxing for about 10 of that. And long story short, I felt like the Lord was like, it's time for you to go and do your own thing. So I did, and everything just fell into place. So it's been very exciting. I've been so blessed by my clients and people around me, and the Lord has just completely provided for me through this entire time. And then all this came along. So I had a lot of peace about it in the beginning. And the first few weeks was fine. It was cute. It was like, I'm going to work out. I'm going to eat healthy, you know, like I'm going to come out of this like 15 pounds skinnier. And like, people are going to be like, wow, look at you. And that lasted about what we're now like 7 weeks, 8 weeks. And it's been like emotionally
well, Bethany,
exhausting.
Tessa, to kick your butt into gear because this girl decided to make a mission out of COVID. So y'all are gonna love this.
Yeah. So it's been phenomenal, but it's also been very scary at the same time. And I'm obviously, being an esthetician, a firm believer in taking care of yourself, especially as women. A lot of my clients, they fall asleep on my table. I have moms that come in that haven't done anything for themselves since their 2-year-old was born. And I think moms and women, I'm single, I don't have children. I just like feel that for you guys on what I've experienced over my 10 years of doing what I do. And it's been really an unbelievable thing for me to be able to help women change their mindset of just like taking care of themselves and loving themselves again and feeling beautiful, because a lot of women don't. They just are kind of like, oh, I'm a mom now. My kid's the most important thing, or my children and my husband and my home, which is true. But at the same time, you're still a woman and you're still a person, and you're not just mom. You're not just wife. You're a woman. So being able to like physically lay my hands on people and speak with them and encourage them through that process has been probably my favorite part of what I do. So there's been a lot of tears on my table, people, you know, sharing their stories about how they just don't love themselves anymore. And this is the one thing they feel like they can do to really self-care, which sounds crazy because, you know, pulling body hair out doesn't sound very fun, but it really does like make you feel really good about yourself. And so it's been an amazing experience. I've learned so much through it. But yeah, so that's pretty much the basis.
Tessa, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself too, but I think you two women have such an insight into the lack of self-care that women give themselves, because how often do we just put ourselves last? Or we're like, oh yeah, well, I don't have time to go and do this, or, you know, budget's tight, so I really can't go and do what I need, what I would like to do, or, you know, any of those things. Tessa, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I have been in Holly Springs for 21, almost 22 years. So I'm pretty much a native here. I'm a hairstylist actually in Holly Springs. I unfortunately though have not been to work since actually February 21st.
And we can all do that.
I started out this whole journey actually having shoulder surgery. So I thought that I'd be going back.
That story up about how you really haven't been working for a long time right now.
Yeah, I thought I was supposed to go back April 21st. Like that's when I was, you know, allowed to medically. You know, we don't really know right now. But yeah, I started out quarantining myself. Quarantined. Yep.
Make a word.
Yeah, might be a word. With my shoulder. So I expected everything was going to be normal and go back to work and yay, I can start to, you know, work out a little bit, get back to normal. I thought everything was going to be fine. And then on my birthday, March 26th, everything was just like shut down. And I was like, happy birthday to me. I got a bum shoulder. Can't go to work. Who knows when this is going to end? So yeah, it wasn't looking too good. But for me, I have been a major major fitness person for quite a while, but I had to stop because of my shoulder. I decided to take this time and really go for it. I think I may be a little crazy doing this, but I have struggled with mental health for quite a while. Depression, anxiety, I've struggled with it for years. And the only thing that actually makes me feel good is not actually getting my hair done, which is shocking. It's working. So I decided to just go full force and doing a challenge that's actually called 75 Hard, and it's 75 days of insane mental and physical challenges. It's like drink a gallon of water a day, do 2 45-minute workouts, but one has to be outside, so you have to enjoy nice weather, or whichever one. You have to read 10 pages of a self-help book, which for me, I don't read. Like, everybody else loves it. I hate it, but it's forced me to like get out of my comfort zone. And weirdly, I find the most joy in that. And then, don't cheat on your meals. So I'm high on the self-care because I love talking to my clients, spending hours sometimes in a chair and listening to them literally talk about their lives. Like, you hear the saddest stories, you hear like the funniest stories, you hear everything. And sometimes I'll go to work and just like bawl my eyes out because, my client may be going through like a divorce, or they just found out they have cancer, something so severe. And I care for them so much, but then sometimes I tend to forget about myself. So I have to kind of balance it out where I'm like, I care for you and I want to be here for you, and whatever you need, I'm here. And then I go home and I tend to forget. So right now, in all this craziness, I'm focusing on myself, and it's actually really nice. So yeah, but hopefully, hopefully after this, I will be down to 15 pounds. I'm hoping.
Your videos,
You
I'm
can
like,
do
oh
it.
my gosh, Tessa's back at it again. I need to go do something, or I need to go. No? Oh, Tessa is exercising again. You guys, like, Tessa got on this call. Where's your gallon of water? I'm like, I need to go get a water. And to me, that is like my little can of fizzy water. Oh no, Tessa shows up with her gallon.
And I haven't finished it yet. It's so close yet so far. Like, I forgot about it today. So I'm trying.
So we jokingly said if Tessa has to get up and walk away in the middle of the call, we know why, because she's gotta pee again.
Like, literally 30 times a day. I literally have to pee 30 times a day. It's so bad. So bad.
So Tessa, tell me, like, this is something that we actually talked about many, many weeks ago. Was right now it's really hard, and we're actually this is in 2 weeks, we're gonna have our community chat is gonna talk about collaborating and working with others and supporting others, and how you can do that without this this feeling of being overwhelmed, because that was always one of my things. Is I am a helper to no end, and like I will literally put myself last and keep helping over and over. And when all of this started happening, I literally put my own business, my photography business aside, because I was like, well, I'm not gonna be able to shoot anyways. And I literally went out and tried to help everybody that I could. But then I was hearing all of these stories, and they kind of get overwhelming after a while. And I'm sure, like you said, you kind of hear so much from people. How do you go home at the end of the day and, almost have like be able to breathe again and be mentally clear when you almost feel like you're kind of taking on those burdens of everybody that you're talking to all day?
Honestly, it took me a very long time, and sometimes I still struggle with it, but it took me actually training my mind to let it go. I will let it go the second I walk out of the salon, and then when I see them again, it hits. So it's like I have to physically, like, mentally shut it off to be able to focus on my life and like what's happening and being a mom and stuff. And they talk about it actually when you're in cosmetology school and everything. They say the second that you walk into that salon, your life isn't your life anymore. It's your client's, or it's a stylist life. It isn't your personal life. So once I walk out of the salon, it's my life again. So it's some days it's very difficult though, because I'm really close to a lot of my clients. And I mean, you become like family with them. Like I've had clients text me from literally the minute I went into surgery, and they said, oh my gosh, please tell me that you're okay. Like, please let me know how it goes and everything. And I'm like, they're concerned about me. They're not concerned about their hair at this time. I just saw them like a week ago, but they're concerned about me. So it's kind of hard sometimes, because I'm like, that's like my family, you know, like I see these people every 4 weeks, every 3 weeks, like they know about me, I know about them, but then I have to have that time of shutting it off completely and just focusing on my life, myself, and bettering my, you know, my mentality, my, you know, physical being, everything. So it's a back and forth battle, but
That's
some
gotta
days
be hard.
good.
Some days are good. We have a rule at my house. It doesn't get followed all the time. But my husband works in restaurants, and it's very, very stressful. And working with that many people, that high energy, that's like go, go, go mentality every single day, all day long, is very taxing. So a long time ago, we made up a rule that was like, you can bitch to your heart's content from the second you get in the car and you call me from work until you hit the front door. And once you hit the front door, the bitching has to stop. Excuse my language.
That's awesome.
But it was like, you can whine and complain the rest of the night if you need to, but like that angry, like I gotta get it all out. I'm like, you have this long to do it. Well, when he worked at a restaurant that was like 30 minutes away, he had a lot of time. Now it's like 7. I'm like, you better hurry. You're almost home.
What you want to complain about?
I'm like, it's been 12 minutes. Are those your headlights in the driveway? Come on, honey, it's time to come inside. No, it's not me. I think putting parameters on it is so important.
My mom always used to say when we were growing up, and I swear, this is like one of those things I'll take with me to the way I parent for the rest of time. She used to always say, you can be mad and you can be upset for 5 minutes, and then you need to suck it up and move forward, because like, and obviously this does not apply to every situation in life, but like this stuff, the everyday stuff, it's like, are you going to let this ruin your whole life? Or are you going to be really angry and like feel it? You need to feel it, but then you need to be like, okay, but also this is not going to ruin my whole life. So we're done. You know what I mean? And like for me, having like a time limit where I am allowed to be annoyed, angry, frustrated, whatever, is helpful, because pushing it aside is not helpful for anyone. So it's like, okay, deal with it for 15 minutes. Okay, now we're going to move on. That's it. That's all the time it gets. Doesn't get any more of your energy. We're done.
That's so true. So true. So Kathleen, tell us a little bit more about like with your journey and why self-care is just so important to you. And then just kind of share with us a little bit about not only how that passion grew from once you started your business, and how that's changed a little bit now to how it is with a house full of kids and all of the other things, and especially what that looks like right now for you.
So, wow. Okay.
I know. Well, I'll tell you real quick first. Danielle says, yes, Kathleen, I teach my daughter that to be upset, work through it, and then let it go, learn from it, and move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't ever want to act like my children are not allowed to feel the things that they feel. I just don't want it to take control of their life, you know? And that's something my mom taught me that I will just always take with me. But going back to your question, so this is a little sad, but also it kind of spurred a huge life change for me. About 4 years ago, I lost one of my very best friends. She was 22 to leukemia, and she like had 2 little boys. She was a Coast Guard wife. We were like in the military life together. She was at our first unit. We were like each other's only friends. And it like, she found out when her son, who is my godson, was 3 months old. And by the time he was 1.5, she had passed away. So that kind of rocked my world. And I did not have kids yet. And so she passed away. And a month later, I got pregnant with my daughter. And after I had, and like, that was like, it was really hard for me to comprehend then having children, and then the thought of not experiencing their whole life. Like for me, that was like, it wasn't real until it was real. So after I had my daughter, I got an abnormal pap, and long story short, I had a precancerous mass on my cervix. I had to get removed. And that whole like situation, her first year of life, when I had first started a business and my husband was gone all the time, and like it was a lot. And there were so many times I got so frustrated that like I couldn't do things at full capacity with her. Like there was a time where like I couldn't like lean over and put her in her crib because like my lower back issues, and like then I had surgery, and it was a lot. And I just, at one point, like after we had surgery, they said I probably couldn't have any more kids, and if I did get pregnant, I'd most likely miscarry. And that was like, again, rock your world. And so I just got to a point where I was like, I am her mom. I want to live as much life as I can. It is so important to me to be there with her, but also like I'm tired of like living life not in a way I'm super passionate about. Like, let's go big or go home. I mean, let's go big instead. We're not going home. So and then
Except for right now, everyone stay home.
but like outside is okay, you know. No, I'm
Outside is okay.
then of course 6 months later we got pregnant unexpectedly, and now I have a son. So praise God. But for me, having that realization that life is very short, and I do not want to live it miserable or struggling with like, I don't want to say like being unhappy, but like for me, my job makes me so happy. Being a mom makes me so happy. So prioritizing all those things with my husband, my kids, my job, it needs to work and it needs to function well, or else it is a waste of my time. Like I give up a lot of things anytime I'm in and I know everyone hates this word, but like when we're in a season of hustle in my job, the things I give up are not time with my children, because no, that is a non-negotiable. The things I give up are binge Netflix, you know what I mean? I don't know, like mostly TV, because that is a time suck. But what I have found is prioritizing those sections of your life and doing them only one at a time. I think Bethany was there for this. Our pastor at our church was like, you think you can multitask, but you literally can't. So good try. It's a lie. And in my mind, I was like, you're right. I am trying to work and juggle my kids at home all day. Neither is getting served well. So I was like, okay, it's time to hire a part-time nanny. So in the morning, I wake up, and up until 1 o'clock, I am 100% present with my kids. I mean, we play outside, we play games, we hang out, we do whatever I want to do that day. And then my kids go down for naps, and my nanny comes, and she is there till 5:30. And then that time is utilized 100% for my job. And I love doing that because I love my job, but also both things are being served every day. Yeah. My husband gets home from work at 3:30. He gets a little bit of work done while the nanny's there. And then at 5:30, when she leaves, we are a family for dinner, bedtime, bath time. And then after dinner, based on what my husband and I have going on, it's like, hey, do we want to hang out? Do you have work to do? Do I have work to do? It's like we can decide because we're not exhausted from trying to juggle everything all day. Yeah. And so I think the biggest thing for me, especially because like I work one-on-one with women all day, every day. I mean, like I could tell you so many women's stories. And for me, knowing your story is like, I want to know. I want to know the ins and outs because I want to know the best way to help you. But like, when did we get to a point where we felt like, okay, the best thing I can do for my kids is to sacrifice me getting a good night's sleep because they need this, or sacrificing a job because I should be more present? It's like, no, we are also people. And there's a reason they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first. And when I'm serving my business and my husband and myself well, my kids are naturally happy. I mean, they literally are thriving because I'm able to like bring joy into every aspect. So for me, it's like, stop telling yourself that you don't deserve to work or like you can't handle it, because even if you work this job, like let's say you're a photographer, that's different than my business, but whatever, you can do that 2 hours a week, but 2 hours really well if you only want to do it a little bit and then still feel like they're both getting served. So I just have found that being able to have those one-on-one conversations with women, being like, okay, we're going to stop with all the, it's probably not possible, I can't. It's like, no, what do you want? And let's figure out a way to literally schedule it. And I think once we get to a point where we realize it's okay to say we want something and then do it, I think we'll make a lot more progress as women. And so for me, it's like, okay, let's start telling each other we can do it. And like, hey, do you need me to babysit once a week for 3 hours in the morning when I'm with my kids anyway, so that you can like get your stuff done? Like, that's okay. Let's figure it out. Like, I don't know. It's just being surrounded by women who want it. And it's like, you can see it on the edge and you're like, okay, let's figure out how you can get it, because you deserve to have something for yourself that makes you feel like, yes, I'm crushing it.
I think it's interesting that you're talking about, oh man, I have got the sun setting like right.
It's happening to me. Don't worry.
Let's try it this way. There we go. I'm like, I can't see you. The sun is in my eyeballs. I think it's really interesting that you talk about multitasking, because I think growing up, I was always so proud of the fact that I could multitask.
I think a lot of us are, because we think
I can talk on the phone, I can cook dinner, I can do this, I can do that. But then it was really interesting because growing up, my dad was not a multitasker. We love him, but we still say to this day, like, dad can't multitask. I can't hold a conversation with him on the phone and talk to my daughter at the same time and be like, hold dad, and, do this. And, well, he's not a multitasker. My mother, on the other hand, can literally do all of the things at once. She's amazing. But it was really interesting because as I got older, I was like, wait, the reason my dad doesn't multitask very well is because he's so focused on whatever it is that he's doing. And he's like 100% committed to what it is that he's doing.
All in.
It's almost like the other part of his brain is blocking it out. And then the older I get, I realize that, like, even when I'm sitting down and writing out my to-do list for the day, that because I own multiple businesses, I have to block everything off. And so it's like, okay, in the morning, I'm going to focus on this. And from these hours, I'm going to focus on this, because if I go from one brand to the next, and I'm trying to do this and trying to do that, and I'm trying to schedule social media, and I'm trying to do a blog post, and I'm responding to emails, my brain doesn't do well going from this task to this task to this task.
Well, and then nothing gets fully finished.
That's exactly what it is. Like, at the end of the day, I feel like I haven't accomplished anything because all I've done is accomplish.
You touched on all of them, but you didn't actually do it.
The big stuff didn't get done.
And then you feel worse about yourself, and it just feeds into that cycle. And you feel terrible. You feel like, I can't get anything done. What's wrong with me? And there's nothing wrong with you. You're just using the wrong strategy.
Yes. I need all the strategies. That is awesome. Well, I was going to say, my personal journey with self-care, I told you a little bit about that 1 year where I was proudly wearing that badge of hustle and busy, and I hit a wall. And it was bad, y'all. It was not a good thing. I won't even take you down the whole road. But for my whole life, I have also struggled with mental illness. It runs in my family. So it was something that I struggled with starting at a very early age. And it was, one generation back, it was 2 generations back. It was something that I knew that I was always going to have to face the rest of my life. But when I was younger, I started having these horrible stomach pains. And it literally, like, I can kind of almost equate it to labor in a sense, because it would be this insanely painful, feeling in my abdomen area. And then it would go away, and then it would come back. And my husband just got home from work. Hi, honey. And it would go away and it would come back. And every time it would go away and come back, it would get drastically worse. And these episodes would happen for out of the middle of nowhere, but would happen for, 2 hours or so at a time, or even longer. But I spent my entire teenage years being put on every medication known to man, only for them to be like, well, that's not working. Let's change this dose and let's do this. And then, oh, let's go run this test and let's go do this test. And it was in and out of doctors' offices and in and out of hospitals. I knew the entire UNC Medical Hospital campus as a teenager. Like, that's not a good thing. And then when all the tests kept coming back negative, they're like, we don't know what it is. Let's try this drug. Let's do this. To the point that I felt like I was in this like horrible fog, because I was being medicated on all of these things that I didn't know what they were. And my parents were trying to do everything to be able to figure out what it was. So we would try the next thing, and then we would try the next thing. And it went on for a really long time.
Well, most times people don't clue in that like it is not a symptom. It's like what is in your life that's happening that maybe needs to be looked at.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is what I love is that many years down the road, like we basically never found a cure or found out what it was. All that we found was that if you give me like the craziest, heaviest dose of a muscle relaxer possible without having to admit me to the hospital, you just pop one of those and you pass out, you think you'll be fine. Because you don't feel anything if you pass out, right? Like that's cool. But I mean, all jokes aside, it worked. But I will never forget, like I was in college. I think it was like my last year of college. It was one of my final design classes. I had stayed up all night sewing. I went to the College of Textiles. I was working in my pattern design class. And I stayed up all night, and I was supposed to go in that morning to present my garment as my final project. And I had one of these episodes to the point that I like became catatonic. Like I couldn't do anything. Thank God my husband was at home at that time because we also had my son at the time too. But I will never forget like how bad I let it get. But I never knew what to do until one of my dear friends, I love her dearly. She was going to be on this call with me, but I love her because self-care. She was like, I can't do it today. Dr. Brooke, I'll give her the plug from Brookview Wellness out in Fuquay. She basically said to me, she's like, Amber, she's like, did you look at, obviously stress? We knew it was stress induced, but she's like, did you look at what you're eating? Did you look at what you're doing? Did you look at all of these things? And she was the first person to sit down with me and say, Amber, like, we're not going to medicate you. We're going to figure out what the solution is. We're going to figure out what the problem is, and we're going to fix it, but in a different way. And it was no longer, we're going to give you a medication to help cover up the symptoms that you're having. It was, we're going to figure out what's wrong to fix the problem. And so we went through like crazy tons of blood work, and I did I think it was like 6 to 8 weeks of the autoimmune protocol diet. And I was able to finally start figuring out like, hey, these are the foods maybe my body doesn't like, or, like the blood work came back and she's like, do you realize how deficient in vitamin B you are? And I'm like, no. And as soon as I started taking these supplements, because my body wasn't producing the things that my body needed to produce, you would be floored when I started eating the right things and I started taking these supplements to help fill the things that I wasn't eating, like how much better my body was. Like I was at the point that I was going through a really bad time. I was like, I need to go get medication. My depression is so bad. I need to do something. But I was like, I refuse to go back to that place of fog. I refuse to go back to that place of just feeling outside of my body. I was like, something has got to give. And when Brooke finally said, like, listen, you have to take time for yourself. You have to figure out what is wrong with you, because you're never going to get better unless we figure that out. And then you take the time to focus on it and the time to take and make it better. So I will say now that I'm in a much better place than I was, and I still get those episodes sometimes from places of heavy stress, but there's so much less now. And it was crazy that once I finally said, I'm going to do this for myself and I'm going to focus on myself. And it was hard, you guys, like the amount of food that I had to cut out of my diet. I love sweets. I love all of that stuff. And there's literally autoimmune protocol diet. Look it up, AIP. You can't eat anything.
Nothing.
You can't eat anything. Have you done it, Bethany?
Well, I have Hashimoto's disease. So with that, and I'm also hyperthyroid. So everything that can cause inflammation, you're not supposed to eat. So in every page, they're always like, oh, do the AIP diet. So I'm like, let me look it up real quick. And I was like, oh, the only thing I can eat is chicken and lettuce. Like you can't even eat nuts. You can't eat, any sort of dairy, any sort of sugars, carbohydrates, wheats, grains. It's crazy. Even dark fruit, dark vegetables, no beets. It's
no
insane.
nightshades. So peppers, tomatoes, potatoes, no dairy, no nuts, no processed sugars, no high glycemic fruits. Like you guys,
that's everything but berries, I think.
I just found out I'm allergic to dairy, and cutting that stuff out is hard enough.
Like
Oh
Tessa, when you posted that, I'm like, girl, I know what you need to do.
It
Yeah.
sucks because you have
Has
to read
it
every
changed
label.
for you?
Oh yeah. I used to be literally anytime I would eat, I would be in the bathroom 30 minutes later. Now I can get through a day and I'm like, what is this? Like, this is nuts. I didn't know this
Like
was
you are lactose intolerant.
Oh my gosh, it's so hard though because my entire family is fine with it. So I'm having to completely make separate things. Of course, I tried to have my kid try some things and she's like, this doesn't have dairy in it. I don't want it. And I'm like, how would you even know if I didn't tell you? So now I'm trying to trick her into eating some of the stuff so I don't have to buy extra groceries. But
Spoiler alert, Cabot Vermont sharp cheddar cheese does not
Yes.
have lactose in it because it is
Yes.
aged. My mom and my sister are severely lactose intolerant. Like if my sister even looks at anything that has a dairy powder in it, poor girl, yeah, she's in the potty for a while. So we have learned all of the things, but it's crazy how your mood, your energy, and all these things can be affected by what you put in your body and what you take and what you do. And I was going to say, Kathleen, that's basically your job every day, is to tell all of the women all of the things that you need to be using and what you should not be using, right?
Start reading labels. Because I feel like it kills me. It kills me. It's like, here's a really healthy option, and you flip it over and you're like, that's a lie. Why would you lie to me about this?
And then anything that's labeled gluten-free, I'm like, yeah, it's gluten-free, but do you know how much other mess is in it now?
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
it's killing me.
You can't slap a leaf or a tree on it and tell me it's healthy. I'm sorry.
Right. But that's really what true self-care is. It's not the bubble baths and the pedicures and the things like that. It really is coming back to the basics of how do you take care of your body and your mind so that you can function, not just function, but thrive in your life and be that fully present and engaged mom that you want to be, and be that fully engaged and productive entrepreneur that you want to be. Yeah, you're so right. Finding foods, and that was me when I was, in the midst of, so much stress with my business. I would like live on coffee all day long with all the, the gross, nasty coffee creamers in them, of course. But I would grab a cup and I'd sit down at my desk and I would, work, and I'd look down and my cup would be empty and I wouldn't even remember having drank the cup. So I'd be like, oh, time for another cup. Yeah. And I was drinking a lot of coffee and it was garbage. It was the garbage creamers I was putting in it too. And doing all of that took the place of providing my body actual nutrition. And that's what led to my physical and mental dysfunctions too, because my body wasn't getting what it needed.
Yeah. And I think it's like very eye-opening to have children. And like for me, anytime I'm like struggling with who even knows and I have to figure it out, it's like, okay, would I be thrilled if my daughter was treating her body, her mind, and her soul the way that I am treating my body, my mind, and my soul? And there are times where I'm like, yes, we are in a good place, like spiritually, with our family, with our priorities. Yes, this is what I want her to see. And then there are other times where it's like, no, this is not, like when you see it through the eyes of someone else that you really care about, your sister, your mom, your best friend, it's like, I would never tell them, skip your lunch. Iced Americano with cinnamon will get you through. It's fine. Like by the time you hit dinner, like you might pass out, but like probably not. Eat a spoonful of peanut butter. It's fine. Like, no. Like I would never tell someone else to treat their body that way. So then you like look at yourself and you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't tell you to treat your body that way either.
Like I yell at my daughter and I'm like, get out of the pantry. Stop eating those things. Like, what are you doing? And then I turn around and like 10 minutes later, I'm like, I want a snack.
Yes.
And we have this really weird like pantry that it's like a walk-in pantry and there's a window and it faces out towards the street. So sometimes I'll just walk in the pantry and like have a snack and look out the window and I'm like, this is nice and quiet in here. And I'm like,
yes,
what are they doing?
Danger.
When your children learn how to ask for snacks, and I'm not talking snack, then my kids were like, cookie? And I'm like, no. No,
but mom can have a
ask for an
cookie
apple.
because I want a cookie.
Ask for an apple because they're going to ask for what you're eating. So if I'm
Mhm.
eating cookies or bread or whatever, it's like that's what they're going to ask for. And so then I was like, I literally have to eat a clementine right now because if you see me eating clementine, I will be thrilled that you're going to eat a clementine. It's like way to convict you being a mom.
In our house, so my kid is strictly like chicken nuggets, pizza. It has to be pepperoni. There's no cheese on a pizza. It has to be pepperoni. So we started over this quarantine actually expanding our palate, and she thinks it's a fancy way of like trying new foods. And I was like, yeah, you're right, it is. And she goes, but I don't want to expand my palate. My palate's fine. I'm like, no, you're 7 years old. You got to expand it.
You're like, is it though? Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So I put her
Yeah,
salad tonight,
I'm
and I
with
put
you.
some pepper on. She gives me the meanest look, and I'm like, listen, we got to be healthy. We got to try new foods. And she said, this is not fun, Mom. This was supposed to be fun being at home with you. I was like, sorry, but you know, I got to be a mom.
Oh, my kids did not get that memo. Those poor kids have so many chores now. And like, I'm like, we're not teaching you that mommy does everything for everybody. That's not how this is going to work. That's not how I want my daughters to run their marriages and their lives as mothers too. So yeah, they're really learning a lot about washing dishes and then washing them again if you don't do it right, and then washing them, yes, a third time. You would think by 13 you could wash a dish, but we're getting
Oh, you guys, like, I know my husband works in restaurants and he makes fun of me, but I have a thing for like raw things. So like raw chicken, like raw eggs. Oh God, I can't do it. I do it, but then like it goes straight in the dishwasher. I am in the middle of making my lunch today, and my son says, well, I want to make myself eggs. And I'm like, go for it. He's 15, like whatever. I turn around and he literally just like rinsed his hands after like no soap. And I'm like, what are you doing? You just cracked the eggs. You have to do this. I'm like, child. And then my daughter is screaming. She's like, but I'm all done. I don't want to do my chores anymore. I'm like, listen, the dog has licked the floor like 4 times this morning. I have no idea what's on it, but I've been on my hands and knees scrubbing dog spit off of the floor. There's dog God knows what behind their bowls on the wall. And I'm like scrubbing, and she's upset because I asked her to scrub the countertop in the bathroom, and I'm like, we're not doing it. I know. Self-care also means delegating tasks to others, doesn't it?
It does. And I think reminding them too, all of the things that you do, you know, and for us, our kids are older. They're 13 and 11. They're perfectly capable. And if we let them get away with like that slacking off, then they're going to, and we take over and do it for them, then they're going to think, okay, well, I'll just keep slacking off and I won't have to do it again. Right? We all have heard those stories.
Oh, I'm so bad. I'm like, you better go pick up your plate. You better go pick up your whatever. I turn around an hour later, and my son left the bowl that the raw eggs were in that he was mixing in the middle of the sink. And I'm like, because my fresh blueberries were about 2 feet away on the countertop. And I'm like, I scream up to him. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are the eggs still in the sink? He's like, Mom, I'm in the middle of my AP exam. Can I finish it and do it later? I'm like, oh, you're fine. Go ahead. Carry on.
You're like, you got me there. You got me there.
And we actually started, because there's 4, it says there's 4 of us here, and so we have four categories, I guess, of chores, and every week we each rotate through the chores, so everybody gets a turn to clean the downstairs bathroom. And I made sure that my husband and I were on opposite weeks, so there's a kid in between us, so if it doesn't get done great, at least it'll get done really well every other week.
Good call.
That's, I feel like, a good way for them to be pitching in and be contributing members of the household. You know, and also not getting like that learned helplessness that I feel like a lot of times moms feel like we have to do everything for everybody, because that's like the super mom thing to do, right? But it ends up killing us. It's really not great for us, but it's not great for them either, because it's not setting them up for success later in life. As far as work ethic, or just knowing that they're capable, or being able to try something and failing at it and doing it again. There's a lot of things I think that kids can benefit from not having mom
Absolutely.
do it all.
Well, and I also know
Absolutely.
that like
Christy.
being, sorry. Oh, I lost you. For a
Oh, no,
second.
you're fine. Go ahead.
Am I back? I
know,
think
you're
that
back.
something, as someone who works from home and stays at home, and I have so many friends who either stay at home full-time or stay at home while working, something I came across specifically this past week on Mother's Day was I feel like we have to put it out there that it is really important for us to ask for what we want. Like, and I'm not talking like give me everything, but like I'm going to use my husband as an example here. He is not a mind reader. He does not just like know what I want on Mother's Day all day, every day. And it is rude for me to expect him to do it and do it well. But it's literally so easy for me to say, I want to spend 4 hours of Mother's Day by myself. I don't want to feel bad about that. I want to feel like I have the freedom to ask for time alone on my day. And when I'm super blunt about it, and like I feel like we have to do this with our kids, our spouses, our friends, everything. When I tell him up front, this is what I want, he has no problem with it. But like if he feels like he has to figure it out, then he's stressed and feels like he's just not helping me well. And so like for me, I feel like self-care is saying what you want and like prioritizing yourself in a way that's like, it's okay to ask for time because you need time alone, or for you to ask someone to step in and watch your kids so that you can go out with your husband and like just have a drink or go for dessert or whatever, or like go, like I sometimes desperately need time out with my girlfriends. Like I need to have dinner with other girls and not talk about work or my family, but only talk about like sometimes frivolous things or sometimes really deep things. But like I need time away. I need time to like recharge. And I have learned it happens so easily if I only ask for it. If I'm crystal clear and say, I need this,
So true.
when can we figure that out? And my husband, if he knows, will be like, oh, well, like, what about Thursday night? I have nothing going on. Just go after the kids go to bed, or like go here, or whatever. And like, now that I'm not nursing anymore, it's a lot easier to time things and just be like, see you later. But I don't know when I think as women, it's almost like we feel bad about asking for things. I don't know why, but I don't know if it's a mom thing or
There's
just
so
an all
much
women
power in
thing.
that. Asking. I'm bad at it too. I'm so bad at it. Oh my gosh.
Well, and it's because we feel
Christy,
guilty.
kind of, I want to go back. It is. So I'm going to hop over real quick because I wanted Christy to share a little bit about her story, because Christy, I know that you came from, I think when we talked about, Christy and I had a really long conversation earlier this week, and I'm like, see, this is what I love. I miss you. But I think one of the things that we talked about was how self-care for you also looked a little bit different because of your journey. And then also it was a bit of right now when you're at this time where you're pivoting and changing, it was also self-care was about listening to your heart and listening to what was really and truly most important to you, and not having to listen, not feeling like you had to follow all of the noise of what everybody else was around you telling you. So do you want to kind of share a little bit about that journey to where you're at right now and kind of how that changed?
Oh gosh. So for me, self-care did used to be, oh, let me go get a pedicure, let me go get my hair done, stuff like that. But realizing that me not taking care of myself landed me feeling sick and depressed and anxious, and that these aren't like struggles that are just going to go away with, an hour pedicure on Saturday. Really was a big wake-up call. It's drinking the water and getting the sleep and eating right and moving my body and taking that time and not kind of subscribing to what society says self-care should look like. Society or the media or I don't want to blame society, but society does put out this picture of what, you know, a woman is supposed to look like, act like. You know, there's all these not, you know, way out there rules. They're just things that, you know, you kind of glean after
Societal norms.
many years. What's that?
I said,
think my
what do they call them?
connection isn't
Society
great, right?
norms? I think mine
Yeah.
is going societal norms or something like that.
Right, exactly.
smart
And
person.
I think that with anything in life, you've got to start with figuring out what's important to you and what works for you, what works for your family and in this season. And even that can change. You know, what works for me now with a teenager and a tween isn't what would have worked for me when mine were 3 and 1, you know, and what worked for me when they were 3 and 1 isn't working now. And I've got to continually, you know, be ready to kind of roll with it. It's not, you know, it's figure this out and then you're done. It's a wave and you've got to keep riding it and not prioritizing your own self-care. I think for a lot of women, it comes down to not feeling worthy and not feeling deserving of that because we aren't living up to that ideal society's definition of what we're supposed to be doing and what we're supposed to be capable of. And it's not attainable for anybody to do all of that. So we have to get clear on what's important to us right now in the season that we're in, what we want our life to look like. We need to have a vision for not just our business and not just have goals for our business, but have a vision for our life and what we want our family life to look like. What do you want it to feel like in your home? And get that 30,000 foot view looking down over your life and think, okay, little things. Like one of the things that that I changed was I would stay up late at night and then not want to get up in the morning, and the alarm would go off right at the last minute and I'd be racing out of bed to get the kids ready, to get them on the bus or drop them off in carpool. And you know, everybody was rushed and I would be yelling, and then I'd drop them off in carpool and I would drive away crying.
I know that feeling.
Because I didn't want them to go into school feeling like mommy was mad at them.
Yeah.
For being a kid, for not being able to find their shoes, or for playing around in the bathroom instead of brushing their teeth, you know? And so I made the conscious decision at that point, I was going to start getting up earlier. I started doing my own morning routine, a little ritual. I get up at 5 o'clock. Even now in quarantine, I'm doing this because it makes such a big difference. They don't have to be anywhere. But,
Go girl.
but you know, we're not leaving the house. But that has become such an important part of my day that it feels odd not to do it now. It feels weird not to have that part of my day for myself. So I get up and I do meditation and reading and journaling, visualizations and affirmations. Most days I'll get outside and go for a walk. Now that the kids are a little bit older, I actually purposely let them stay up late so that they'll sleep later. So then I have that extra time in the morning since they don't have to be anywhere. But now when they get up and they have to, you know, get on the computers for school and they need to be getting their breakfast and they're still slow and, you know, not really wanting to do it. But since I've had that time to fill my own cup, I feel so much more centered and ready.
Yeah.
And on days when we did go to school, I felt like, okay, from 5 to 7:30, it's no work. There's no work during this time. There's no work until they go. Because I love my work and I would jump right on my computer and try to be doing this at the same time they're packing lunches. And then I'd be like, oh crap, there's the bus, it's gone. You know? And now I've got to drive you. And, you know, it gets that hurry, rushy kind of stressful feeling again that I'm trying to not have. So even just that one simple thing of just being able to get up in the morning, have that time to myself, fill my own cup and feel centered and balanced, then move into mom mode where I can be fully present, fully engaged, give them my undivided attention for that amount of time, let them go off about, you know, to their day feeling like they're loved and they're special and they're valued, that made such a huge difference.
Christy Johnson, you're my hero. I am not a morning person. I love to go and get my time, my quiet time for myself is after everybody goes to bed.
That used to be me, honestly, but then I realized, like, at the end of the day, I was so tired that I wasn't doing anything except like scrolling on my phone or like mindlessly watching TV. And I realized, like, if I took that hour or 2 hours and put it in the morning for myself, then I could actually like get something done or feel like more awake or present than I do at night. So yeah, I'm usually in bed at 9 o'clock. And I'll watch a little TV or I'll scroll on TikTok or something for a while. But you know, if I can be asleep by 10 at the latest, that's it. And I have no idea what time my kids are going to bed anymore. I set screen time on all their devices, and I'm just like, you do you.
That is so funny. So I used to, like, for a while, I run, and I say run loosely because I don't actually run. Irene says, me too, Christy. The running is like a fast walk, semi-jog thing. It's as fast as two pit bulls with short legs can run. That's my pace. It's not good, but it works, okay? But the only time when we had school and stuff, when my son was in middle school and then my daughter was in elementary, their schools were just so off that there were some mornings that I would get up early enough to go running. And the days that I would get up like super early that I literally hit the lake, because we live up next to a greenway, I would hit the lake as soon as the sun would start to rise. Like, oh man, the way that my soul was at peace to start my day was amazing. But I'm not a morning person.
It makes such a big difference. You know what? If you're not a morning person, then try to find some time during the day. That worked for me because I hated that feeling of rushing and feeling hurried in the morning. Like, it just really started my day off wrong.
I need to just maybe do that.
Yeah, so there's some other time during the day where you can at least just take time for yourself, or even just put in little pauses in your day, especially now with everybody is home and everybody's on top of each other all the time, and you're moving from like self-care to work time, and now you've got to be mom, and you've got to get some work done, and now you're mom time again. You know, if you can kind of divide your day into zones where like you start with self-care and then you move into mom mode where you're fully with them and undivided attention, really filling their cup. So then later when you're in work mode, they're not fighting for your attention because they had it. They've got that filled up, and now they can play independently or they can do their own schoolwork while you're getting some work done. And then you move back into mom zone, and you kind of move throughout the day however it's going to work out. But if you can take some of that time for yourself, then you're not going to feel resentful of the kids for like, oh, mommy, mom, mommy, mom, mommy, mom. And you're not going to feel like, oh, I'm never going to get my to-do list done. And I have a recommendation for folks that are feeling really overwhelmed right now. And I feel like there's a lot of women who are feeling very just overwhelmed and foggy and don't know what to start with or what to do or how to even manage the situation. Take stuff off your plate. Take it off, delete. Like, really boil down what really matters. And if you can just start in one place, make a list of 3 things every day. 1 thing for yourself, for your own self-care, whether that's taking an hour to read a book on the back porch or whatever. And then 1 thing for your family, where you're fully present, undivided attention. So maybe it's a game night, or you guys are going to watch a movie together, or you're just going to play Barbies on the floor for an hour and you're fully there. And then 1 thing for work. I had to actually do that for myself in the beginning when all of this started. My first week was like full on anxiety. I was like, I was like, okay, so we got to close down the studio. We've got to do this, and I've got to, got to contact these people, and I need to do this, and then, and it was just like go. And then the next week I was like, I can't focus. I'm so foggy. I can't think about anything right now. It was like my brain was just like go and stop. And so I did that for a little while. 1 self-care, 1 work, 1 family. And that's how I got through a few days, just until my body and my brain could calm back down again.
Yeah.
And also like there are things that can go. I don't think people understand there are things you can give up. And
Absolutely.
even just using an example as stupid as television or like something like that, it's like you don't understand how much time it will take from your mind and from your day. And it may not be television for you. It may be, I don't know, like a game on your phone or scrolling or whatever. But like there are things that can go and there is room for you.
Yeah. It's so true.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's just that you don't make it a priority. And let's be honest, like I'm 100% that's what it is. Because I'm like, well, I can get one more thing checked off my to-do list. Would I rather do that or would I rather go be quiet by myself somewhere? And I'm like, that's my problem. Oh my gosh, you guys, I didn't realize what time it is. We have been chatting for a while and I want to be respectful of your time. So before we close out, I want to go around real quick and just ask you guys to maybe share one thing that has just, well, Christy just did, one thing that has really revolutionized the idea of being able to put yourself first. So yeah, Christy, you just led the way with it. Thank you. But Kathleen, you want to share something with us? Like what's one thing that really helped you say, okay, stop, I need to start doing this for myself?
Gosh, I mean, I would have to say my kids and that precancerous mass.
Yeah.
It was like, prioritize your life.
Yeah. Bethany, what's one thing that like you could tell everybody to kick their butts into gear about making self-care a priority? What's one thing you could recommend for everybody?
I think everything you guys said was awesome as far as like, you know, taking care of your body. That's so important, especially as an esthetician. I see that all the time. You know, skin is your biggest revealer of sickness on the inside. So whether it's anxiety, depression, food allergies, a lot of times as soon as I see something, I know. Whether even hair loss is such a big one too, especially with my disease. So, you know, it's amazing to see like when you change, take care of your body. But as far as like, you know, beauty on the outside, I push a lot of my mothers and my clients to just like you guys said, set a time out for yourself. And like pre-booking appointments, I find very important for the moms because they're like, oh, I'll call when I'm ready. And I'm like, okay, you know that feeling that you're feeling right now, that big breath that you just took when you got off my table, you're not going to come back and you're not going to feel that for another year if you don't book an appointment. So it's
You're not
funny to
prioritize
see like
yourself because there's always a reason that you don't have to choose
there's
yourself.
always an excuse.
There is always an excuse. You know what? There you go, Bethany. That is it from you. Like Bethany says, stop with the excuses.
Always an excuse.
Just
Coming
do
from
it.
an Enneagram 8, there's always an excuse. Get your butt into gear, like prioritize yourself and yeah, for sure. And again, even like, you know, you meditate, Christy, and all of these things, like some women come in and they just like, they want somebody to vent to that's like an outside source. Like I have women come in and they don't really need to be waxed. They just want to come talk to me for an hour. Come talk to me. Like come sit down and like, let's talk it out. I'm a neutral, I'm Sweden or in this, you know, like, let's see, I'm not your best friend or your husband or whatever. And so,
you don't know our
it's
junk.
just the little things. Do what?
I said, you don't know all of our junk.
Oh my gosh.
So we get to come to
Girl,
you with
I've
our
heard it
junk
all.
and you don't have to make judgments.
Girl, nothing scares me anymore. So
Man, Bethany, you and Tessa both, I think you need to have like separate degrees in like psychology of people in order to do your junk.
dude, people have told me.
Yes. In some states,
They're like,
they
I'll pay you. I'll pay you extra.
How much longer can we make this appointment? I'm not done yet.
I know.
What were you saying, Tessa? You said in some states what?
In some states, cosmetologists actually have to be certified in therapy. I think it's
Wow.
I know it's some kind of therapy and also sexual assault, how to handle it.
Wow.
As you would be the first one to know about anything like that. I told my mom, I said, that's a lot. That is a lot to put on someone. I don't mind being their therapist, but to be able to have to do, that's a lot. But I mean, it is true because you literally, you trust someone that you don't know them. Like you can say anything and everything, and it's like getting it all out, and you leave and all the weight's off your shoulders. So I mean, I see it. I'm like, please don't come to North Carolina. I can't be an actual therapist.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. What about you,
And
Tessa?
that's
What's
a
one
good
thing?
point too, in that, a lot of us, if we talked about like time for ourselves, or, to meditate or to, just be alone for a while. But self-care can also mean community and having somebody to unload on and to feel supported in that moment. And I think, Amber, you had mentioned just wanting to have chats with people, to just talk to people. That can be your self-care, right? That can be part of your self-care plan. It doesn't have to be, you alone in a room.
This is my self-care, y'all. You just filled my self-care bucket. What about you, Tessa? What's one thing that you could recommend for people that you found helpful with making sure that you prioritize self-care?
Honestly, I've had days that I've literally I've had to go to my family and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm grumpy. I feel like tears are just coming out. Like I just need time alone. I need something. I don't know what it is. But then I do different things. I try different things until I find something that it's just like you're, this light coming out of you and you're like, this is what I needed. Just finding what that is. I find it in fitness. I find every single night I take 10 minutes and I do Bible study before I go to bed. And the next day I start out my day, still with that in my mind, and it starts the day for everything to come in line. So finding what works for you, because it could be one thing, it could be multiple things, it could be finding a different thing a day. So just kind of, finding what makes you happy and kind of.
I love that. That's awesome. All right, you guys, before we sign off real quick, I want everybody to share with us where we can find you on social so that if anybody wants to connect with you or follow up with you. Tessa, you want to go first? Where can everybody find you at?
Yes, so my stylist page is probably the best. It is Tessa J -stylist on Facebook and Tessa J _stylist on Instagram. Yeah.
I can't wait to get back to the salon.
I know. Hair.
I know, right? What about you, Bethany? Where can everybody find you at?
So
stylized
Facebook,
brand.
Facebook and Instagram. It's both Fuzzy Bee Waxing Studio. So just make that all one word. You can put that in Facebook or Instagram, and I should pop right up. Also, my website is fuzzybeewaxingstudio.com.
Awesome. And Kathleen, where can everybody find you at?
On Facebook, I'm just Kathleen Burton. Little old me.
Little you. We love you.
On Instagram, I am at Kaylene B. It's KAYYYLEEN_B.
Love it. And what about you, Christy?
On Instagram, I'm Christy.Johnson. And then I actually just popped a link in the comments on Facebook to a guide that I did for moms that want to, it's like 5 steps to finding peace in your home during quarantine. How to bring in self-care, how to manage, kids and business all at the same time. So I popped that in the comments on Facebook for you guys.
Yeah, we need to go check that out for sure. Well, we just lost Kathleen. Goodbye, love. She was having internet connection problem. I lost her. But I just want to let you guys know, we for Vend Raleigh, we're at Vend Raleigh on Instagram and Vend Raleigh on Facebook as well. But my big thing for you guys today is because community is everything. And just like we talked about, sometimes self-care is just being able to hang out with friends and hear the fact that you're not alone in all of the mess and the craziness that is your life. There are other women that are living that right beside of you too. So we have with Bend Raleigh, we have the community groups on Facebook. We have different groups for pretty much every kind of business that you run. We have the professional photographers, we have direct sales, we have retailers, we have coaches, you name it. If you go to our website, you can find links to all of those, either that or just send us a message on DM on Instagram or send us a message on Facebook, and we can connect you so that you can find out which group would be best for you. So we'd love to have you. And thank you guys for joining us tonight. And thank you ladies for joining me. This was definitely my self-care for the day, probably for the week, until we can all meet again in person. This is the next best thing. So y'all are amazing. Thank you so much. And
Thank
thank y'all for being
you.
here.
No.
Bye guys.
Thank you,
Have a
guys.
good night.
Bye.
Bye.